It's Thursday, 11 o'clock. It's time for this week's Watch Drop. There's no escaping the fact that this week the theme is yellow gold. We've got some of the biggest hitters when it comes to yellow gold. We've got Piaget, we've got Day-Dates, we've got 222s, all of it. I'm going to dive into them and talk about which is my favourite and which are my favourite characteristics from each of the watches. So let's jump into it. I'm going to start this week by talking about the Piaget Polo, reference 7131. And that is the rectangular Piaget Polo, unlike the watch that was re-released in the Polo 79 last year, which had a round face. This is more like a bracelet. Now, what I love about the Piaget Polo is that you have the continuation of the links or the goudrons through the dial of the watch. So at the right time, when the hands are sort of not catching the light, it really feels like you're not wearing a watch at all. You can barely tell the time on it, frankly. But this is a piece that I really like, and it's a big favourite from collectors. There's no one else that can make a bracelet watch or a jewellery watch quite like Piaget. They've nailed this design. There's a lot going on, but also it's kind of simplistic in the approach to watch design. I love it. There's no two ways about it. It's very 70s. It's very jewellery-esque, but if yellow gold's your thing, then I think this has to be on your list of watches to consider because it's the most yellow gold that watches really get. The next watch I'm going to talk about is one that we've touched on only a few weeks ago, but we have another one in. This is the Vacheron reference 222, which was re-released a few years ago now. Actually picking this up, the first thing you realise is that there's more yellow gold in this watch than there is in the Piaget Polo. But the 222 really gives that a run for its money. It's, I think, quite a lot heavier and feels very substantial on the wrist. I won't go into the details too much, but for me, the bracelet execution on this is excellent. It's a phenomenal bracelet. The head of the watch is lovely. You don't have that continuation through the dial in the same way that you do on the Piaget Polo, but that makes it more legible, probably a little bit easier to live with as a watch. For me, it's a little thing, but the standout design on this is the little Maltese cross on the, I guess you'd call it a lug, but it's really the edge of the case. It's just a little nod to the original design, and it must have cost an awful lot to do that, but I really like it. It's a lovely detail, and it breaks up an otherwise fairly monolithic design in the same way that the Piaget Polo is. That Maltese cross is a little special extra for those that understand the heritage of this watch. The next watch I'm going to talk about is the Rolex Day-Date, in yellow gold, of course, but this time with a ferrite stone dial. For me, stone dials on Day-Dates really are the most special of all of the Day-Dates that are produced. I love the way that each dial is effectively unique. These are natural stones that are used, and for some reason, this example is beautifully textured in a sort of linear way that makes you feel the sort of, I guess, the sort of sedimentary nature of the stone. It's difficult to describe, but when that hits the sunlight, you see all those layers and really the contrast in between the different composition in the stone. This year at Watches and Wonders, Rolex released some new stone dials, notably the Tiger Iron. Rolex is probably best known for their sports models and their mass-produced Date-Justs and those sorts of watches. But actually, if you dive into their history, there are a number of stone dials that they've created, particularly in the Day-Date models, that are hugely collectible because of their rarity. And never mind the fact that each individual stone is unique. The stone dials, just generally speaking, are produced in very low numbers, which is quite an interesting side of Rolex, and I think that's why they're collectible. Certainly a ferrite dial with a grey finish, contrasted against yellow gold, works so well. It's one of those combinations that sticks out as one of the very best Day-Date combinations. So yeah, that's absolutely up there on my list. I adore this watch. It's a really good thing. Similarly, the Audemars Piguet 4100 in yellow gold has that grey dial offset against yellow gold. So here, obviously, the design of the Royal Oak focuses so much on the case and the angularity of the individual links and the octagonal bezel. That's the star of the show. But we can't forget the fact that Audemars Piguet have produced this petit tapisserie dial that has such a life to it, particularly now that it's 30 years old and is starting to oxidize a little bit. It has a life of its own, much like the natural stones that we've been talking about with Rolex. I like the 4100 because the bezel is slightly narrower than the 14790, so you get a little bit more of that dial to enjoy. But also, it's an early reference with that sans serif Audemars Piguet script on the dial. It's a lovely, lovely thing. And I like that this dial has started to lighten up as it's growing with age. They really do have a life of their own after some years, and you're starting to see just this individual characteristic that, I don't know, there aren't many other watches that age in the same way that a Royal Oak does, and this is a brilliant example. A lovely watch indeed. Now, back to Rolex. I think my guilty pleasure is that I really like the Submariner in yellow gold with a black dial. Many people think of that bluesy combination with a blue dial and a blue bezel on yellow gold. When I think of that bluesy style, I'm reminded that stars like O.J. Simpson used to wear on it, and I think actually his was fake. But it's one of those iconic models from Rolex that really stands out as a sort of look at me watch. But with a black dial, I think it pares it back a tiny bit to the point where it's just about passable. I like it. If I was going to go out to an event and really want to flex, this is the kind of thing that I really like to wear because it's just bold, but yet it's iconic and it's heavy and robust, and you can give it a bash against a wall if you do. You can polish it out, and it's a very, very versatile watch. What more can I say? It's a guilty pleasure of mine. Always has been. Maybe one day I'll buy one, but right now when gold commodity prices are at an all-time high, it's actually quite a tempting proposition. In the same vein, we have a Rolex Yacht-Master in yellow gold. We've actually got a couple of examples, but the one that jumps out to me the most, because if you're going to go yellow gold, you might as well go mother of pearl and ruby, is this example here. Wow, the dial has got some depth to it. Again, the use of natural stones and mother of pearl in this instance, it just has its own life and character. I really like the fact that rubies are used on the dial. I know that's a funny thing to say, but they're used really subtly in a way that sort of brings out the sort of red characteristic that is in that stone. Mother of pearl is such an interesting material. There are so many different cuts of it with subtlety in greens and blacks and blues, and in this one there is a hint of red, and believe me, in the sunlight this thing glows. It's an absolutely amazing thing. I think in contrast to the Submariner with the black dial and the black bezel, it sort of pares it back in subtlety. This sort of cranks it up to 11. I think not just the fact that it's got a whole load of yellow gold, which is highly polished in some parts, but also you have that vibrant mother of pearl plus the rubies. It's a very bold watch, but for the right person on the right occasion, this is a fantastic pickup. I really, really love it. If yellow gold is your thing, but you don't want to ramp it up to 11 like we would do with all the other watches we've been talking about today, perhaps yellow gold on a leather strap is what you want. And for me, the masters of this is Cartier. We've got a couple of my favourite models here. This is a Tank Louis, yellow gold, manual wind, of course, with a porcelain dial, Paris signature at 6. Some of these have had a hard life. This one clearly hasn't. It's an extra plat, so it's ultra thin, but with a domed sapphire on the top. I think to most watch collectors, the Tank Louis Cartier speaks for itself. But it's worth saying that the extra plat is just that tiny bit thinner than most models you'll see. And it's very, very minor differences between all of the different models, but with the extra plat sitting at the top, being the thinnest and therefore I think the most elegant of all of the Tank Louis models that have been produced over the years. It's a great watch and I think a must for any watch collector. I've certainly got one in my collection and I implore you to find the right one for you too. If the Tank Louis Cartier is something that you're considering, I would implore you to look at Cartier's system sort of model, which is the Santos. This is the Santos 1576. It's Santos Dumont, so it hasn't got a bracelet, and actually is a later version of the first wristwatch that Cartier ever made. What I love about this thing is that if you really want an ultra-thin watch, then this is even thinner than the Tank Louis Cartier Extra Plat. It has the FP21 movement inside, which was one of the thinnest movements that was ever produced, certainly back in the 80s when it was used in this model. This is a CPCP dial. I mean, it's for me, it's absolute greatest hits of Cartier. It's ultra-thin guilloche dial, CPCP text on the front of the watch. It's 5mm or less. I think it's 4.5mm thick, which is just amazing. And never mind the fact that it's very small on wrist. It punches so much above its weight because of the use of polished and brushed finishes on the gold case, plus the fact that it's got a really delicate use of guilloche on the dial. It's a really interesting model and quite a rare one too, with a CPCP emblem on the front. Brilliant watch, and definitely one that I need to have in my collection. There's no doubt about it. So that's this week's drop. Over 60 watches hitting the site and an awful lot of yellow gold. So if that's your thing, go hit the website, check it out, and I'll see you next week.